The fossil fuel industry is responsible for a slew of problems in the 21st century. Climate change and environmental concerns top these lists, but the fossil fuel industry also dominates lobbying in Congress and also in states with high extraction rates such as Wyoming, West Virginia, and Kentucky. Coal companies in my home region of Appalachia turn to bankruptcy and government handouts to pay their bills, while workers suffer in dangerous conditions without fair pay and adequate healthcare services. Just this week, Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell walked out of a meeting with a black lung advocacy group that was fighting for retired miners' pensions and insurance. But even as the federal government pumps billions of dollars into failing industries, the mines continue to go under. Newly hired miners are often only employed for 6 months and then laid off to save costs in seniority and healthcare. Meanwhile, coal companies dodge taxes by registering their corporations in tax havens, most notably Delaware. Many people, especially on the left, are pushing a narrative that green energy jobs will overshadow the fossil fuel industry. I welcome this change. However, in 2019, that narrative simply is not true at the current time. The renewable energy industry employs almost 5 times the number of people than the fossil fuel industry, but yet the fossil fuel industry comprises 63.5% of the total generation of electricity to the renewable energy industry's 17.1%. Green energy jobs do exist, but do not contribute as much generation of electricity as the fossil fuel industry. When I say this, I try not to speak for everyone in Appalachia, but we want these jobs. Many people that I've talked to long for the glory days of Appalachia. Coal mining is in our blood, and our ancestors fought for generations to provide safe mining practices for workers. Mining strikes were brutally broken during a time when a soldier in World War I was statistically safer than a miner in West Virginia in the early 20th century. So what can we do to reinvigorate jobs in communities that have been failed by the free market? How can we continue to keep up with energy quotas while simultaneously combating carbon emissions and the climate crisis? The answer is very simple and yet very taboo by US standards: the nationalization of the fossil fuel industry. The federal government could regulate extraction rates and carbon emissions while simultaneously work to establish a federal jobs guarantee, providing relief to many poverty-stricken areas. These new industries would prioritize standard of living for extraction communities and high pay and benefits for workers. This would also allow for the renewable energy industry to grow alongside the fossil fuel industry instead of fostering competition. Eventually, renewable energy will become the most efficient way to power society, and the fossil fuel industry will be phased out. Displaced workers must be compensated and reemployed through the federal jobs guarantee. The nationalization of the fossil fuel industry is the only way to combat the climate crisis efficiently. Respect the culture and characteristics of extraction states and empower workers through high wages and a transition to a democratic workplace that provides for society rather than growing profits for coal barons.